Hello! It's time to take your HTML skills to the next level. You've learned the basics and understand the tags, attributes, and elements. Now it's time to display the content in the browser. In this video, we will focus on the body section and create grouping elements within it. So let's get started. In this video, we will cover three main topics. First, we will learn some important semantic elements in HTML and use them in our portfolio website project code. Next, we will explore the differences between two similar elements, div and section. And finally, we will update the title of our website to the appropriate one. We currently have a placeholder text from the previous chapter, so we need to replace it with the final version. Let's get started. Do you remember the HTML document tree we learned about earlier? We split it into two parts, head and body. In this video, we will focus on the body section and add more elements, making more branches in the tree. This tree can become huge for larger projects. When we add more branches, you must admit that this analogy to an upside-down tree makes sense now even more. Today you will learn and add some basic HTML elements to our project. These elements help divide our content into smaller, meaningful pieces. They are main, header, footer, section, and div. We will start with the first three of them. Remember always to use them in your projects because they are essential building blocks. These three elements we can compare to parts of the human body. The header is like the head, the main is like the body, and the footer is like the feet. The header and footer show the beginning and end of the web page, while the main element is everything in between. You can see it on our website prototype. The header typically appears at the top of a page. It contains essential information about the website, such as the logo, name, and navigation links. It is the first thing visitors see. The main element contains the entire website content between the header and footer. It can be text, images, and videos and other elements. The footer usually appears at the bottom of the page. It contains contact information, additional links, and some copyright notices. Thanks to these three elements, you can easily organize the content of your project and make it easier for visitors to navigate and understand. Do you remember the 10 golden rules of the great website? This structure helps us a lot to make the website obvious to visitors. Inside the main element, we divide the web page content into sections. The section element allows us to group related elements with similar content or purpose. These elements are like different parts of a newspaper, for example. Just like in the header in HTML, the header part of a newspaper contains important information, its name, date, and headline. The main part of a newspaper contains the primary content such as articles and images. This content is divided into sections. Every article is a separate section. It's a group of related elements. And finally, the footer part of a newspaper contains contact information, sometimes copyright notices, a page number, some other news, and so on. Great! We've learned the most important semantic HTML elements. Now it's time to put our knowledge into practice. Let's open our code editor again. Based on what we've learned so far, let's create the outline of the project within the body element. We'll start with the 3 most important elements. Click after the opening tag of the body element and then hit Enter to go to a new line. Here, following what we've learned about creating HTML elements, let's make the first new element today, the header. Create its opening and closing tags. Perfect. Please hit Enter again to go to the next line. Now, let's create another element. This time, it will be the main element. Follow the same process as before to create its opening and closing tags. We have one more element left, the footer. Repeat the process and create it below the main element. Great job! The outline of our web page is now complete. Now it's time to write some sections. As you can remember, we have a prototype of our project. Additionally, we have a website content document from our client. As you can see, there is a clear division for different sections here. Our task now will be to create a section element for each prototype section. This means we need to create a separate section for the hero, about me, projects, skills or tech stack, and contact. So let's return to the code editor and get started. As a web developer, it's important to avoid repeating the same tasks over and over again. That's why we'll create one section element for the hero section and then copy it 4 more times to save time. We'll name each section accordingly. Your code should now look like mine. Great! We have now created the main structure of our web page and can move on to the next step, where we will learn about the next HTML element, div or division. The div element is one of web development's most commonly used elements. The exciting thing about div is that it has no inherent meaning or content. You can think of it as a box holding other elements, such as text, images, or buttons. Even if it does not have any meaning, div is very useful because it allows us to group elements together and manipulate their layout and style without affecting other elements on the page. This will become more obvious when we get to the CSS section, when we'll see this in action. Okay, we have the div element, which groups our content. But wait, don't we already have an element like that, section, right? Why don't we use a section element for this? Well, it's not that simple. Of course, we can use both div and section to group content. As you can see in the code editor, when I change the section element to a div element and open it with live server, nothing's changed. The content looks the same. It's a great moment to talk a little about Semantic HTML. As you remember, HTML had several versions till HTML5. In the past, using div elements to structure everything on web pages was very common. But it wasn't very helpful for search engines and people who use screen readers to browse the page. As we mentioned earlier, the div element has no specific meaning, so it was hard to differentiate between elements. This problem was solved by HTML version 5, which introduces new semantic elements, including sections. Thanks to them, it's easier to understand the page's content, even if there is no difference visually. Remember that you create websites not only for standard visitors, but also for search engines and people with disabilities using screen readers. So let's get back to our comparison between div and section. Think of a section element like a box for storing things that belong together, like childhood memories. Inside the box, you might have photos, documents, and toys related to your childhood. On the other hand, a div element is like a box with different items inside, but they don't necessarily belong together. That's the main difference between them. Now you can understand why we use the section element to separate parts of our website. The section element groups together content that's related. Let's take a look at the hero section on our web page. It includes a heading, button, and image. To make the content more meaningful and easier to understand, we use the section element to group everything related to the hero section. But that's not all. For example, we can use a div element inside the section element to group the heading and button. We can add another div element and place an image inside it. This allows us to style and manipulate the content as a group and even separate the left and right sides if we want to. Okay, there's just one more thing to do. Let's change the title of our page. Let's reopen the code editor. In the head section, you can see the title tag we created. You probably have the same content as me. I am a CODER woman. Let's change it to Jane Doe Full Stack Developer. This way, we can personalize the project for the client. Congratulations! We've reached the end of the lesson. Today you learned about Semantic HTML and how to create the initial structure of an HTML page inside the body. You also learned about the div element and how it differs from the section element. Lastly, we changed the title of the page. It was a lot of work, so take a short break and move on to the next lesson. Hello, in this lesson, we will learn about the two most important text elements in HTML, headings and paragraphs. We will also learn about the importance of using headings to improve the readability of the website. And we will also add some text to our project. So, let's go! Let's start with headings. Why is using headings so important? Well, within the 10 golden rules of a great website, we mentioned the importance of a solid visual hierarchy, right? It was rule number 2, as you remember. Headings enable us to create this visual hierarchy. Thanks to them, we can highlight important text and break the content into logical sections, making it easier for visitors to read and understand. Let's see an example. Here we have some text as a paragraph only. As you can see, it's difficult to read it all. Let's improve it a bit. After adding some headings, the text begins to look better. With the headings, you can quickly see what the text is about at a glance. This example shows the power of headings. They structure your text and help search engines and screen readers understand the importance of different text sections. So it's time to meet the heading tags. They range from H1 to H6, with H1 being the most important. It's important to use only one H1 tag on a single page. You can think of it as a book title. You can use different h1 tags on different pages. For example, one on the home page, another on a blog page, and a third on an about page, just like in this example. However, make sure not to use more than one on each page, no more than one and no less. Not using an h1 at all can cause problems. It can lead to a bad user experience and difficulties for search engines to read and understand your content. Let's see an example of heading tags hierarchy with a restaurant menu. The h1 represents the restaurant's name, the largest text. h2 is for main dish categories such as main courses, desserts, and drinks, making them easy to spot. h3 is like the dish add-ons, for example, information about additional toppings and sauces. h4, h5, and h6 are like additional dish details, for example, calorie information or ingredients list. As you can see, headings improve the readability of the menu content. Headings make the menu easy to read, helping customers quickly see the options and choose the dish they're interested in. So it's time to add headings to our project. First, we need to spot the elements in the prototype for headings. Please open the prototype file with me. You'll see headline text in some spots, which are perfect for headings. Remember, we can only use one h1 tag per page. Can you identify which element should have the h1 tag? Look at the prototype. The largest headline is in the Hero section. That's the perfect spot for the h1 tag. Let's start by adding it. Please open the website content file with me. We have text for each section of our project. In the Hero section, we have the text. Hi, I'm Jane Doe, full-stack developer with 5 years of experience in web development. Let's turn this text into an h1 heading. Open the code editor with me. First, we need to bring back our section instead of div element. Next, move your cursor to the end of the section, press Enter, and add an h1 tag in the new line. Remember how? Write an opening and closing tag with h1 as the tag name. Good job! Now we need to add the text we want to display as a heading. Open the website content file again, copy the text from the Hero section, and paste it between the opening and closing h1 tags. Let's see the result. Launch the live server and view it in the browser. Excellent! As you can see, our text is quite large, which is what we want. Want to see how the other headings look? Let's add h2, then h3, h4, h5, and h6 below it. For each, type its name as the content to display, so that we can identify them in the browser. All set? Does your code look like mine? Great! Let's relaunch the live server. Now you can see all the HTML headings with their default styles. As you can see, the more important the heading, the larger the font. For now, we can remove unnecessary headings. We left here only the h1 tag. Our next task is to add other headings. Please take a look again at the prototype. We have a headline in each section. It's a perfect place to use the h2 tag. Let's do it. The Hero section is ready for now. Let's continue. Let's create one h2 tag with About Me text as content in the About Me section. Well done! Now copy and paste this into the other sections too. We just need to change the displayed content. In the Project section, type the text Projects. In the Text Tag section, type Text Tag. And finally, in the Contact section, type Contact. Great work! After this, let's check how it looks in the browser. Perfect! All headings are on the page. Let's move on. It's time to introduce another HTML element for creating text, the paragraph, represented by the P tag. It is a fundamental element and very commonly used to display text blocks. We can combine it with headings to create website content. For example, we can experiment with our H1 heading. In the code editor, we can, for example, transform the text with 5 years of experience in web development into a paragraph and display it below the H1 heading. How? First, create a paragraph tag. At the end of the heading element in the Hero section, place the cursor, press Enter, and on a new line, please create opening and closing tags for the paragraph using P as the tag name. Next, select and copy the text with your mouse. Then, place your cursor between the paragraph tags and paste the text. Now we can remove this text from the heading. Please save the file and check the browser to see the result. This is an example of a paragraph. As you can see, we have a lot of text in the website content file. We can add it all right now to the project using headings and paragraphs. However, in my opinion, a better idea is to leave the text for now and work on each section separately in the upcoming chapters of the course. This approach will allow us to apply styles, add extra elements, and perfect each section. We'll finish this video now and soon work on each section. You'll learn many new things through practical experience. So, see you in the next video. Today, we'll learn the basics of creating links and adding images to our project. It makes our website prettier and more interactive. We will not use only plain text anymore. What we will learn in this video? We will start with understanding links in HTML. We will talk a bit about their role. We also learn how to create links, what attributes they can have, and 2 different types of links. We will also use this knowledge to insert your first link to the project. Next, we will go to images in HTML. You'll see how to create one and what attributes they can have. We will also insert an image to our website. And finally, we will combine links and images. You'll see how to make an image a clickable link. Let's go! Let's talk about links again. What are they and why do we need them? Links are really helpful in making websites. They let us easily visit different pages and explore the internet. When you click something in Google or go from one page to another, you use links to move around the web. To better remember the links, imagine them as the roads and highways in a big city. Think about buildings as web pages and the whole city as a website. The roads or links help you travel from one building to another, connecting different parts of the city. Thanks to the roads, you can easily explore the area. The tag we use for writing links is an A letter between angle brackets. Yes, I know, you must now think, Why it's an A letter, not a link tag? It doesn't make sense. And I have some fun facts for you. Yes, there is a link tag in HTML. And yes, it's used for links. But the trick is that a link tag is allowed only in a website's head section and is not clickable. We will learn about it later, don't worry. For now, we don't need this knowledge here. So, where did the letter A come from? It's a shortcut for the anchor. And it's called this word because it works like a connection point in web development. It helps you create links that connect different pages or parts of the page, just like a real anchor keeps a ship in place. Okay, let's get back to our analogy of the city. Now imagine there are two types of road in this city. The first type allows you to navigate within your city. These are like local streets. In web development, we call them relative links. They connect different parts of the same website. With relative links, you can go from the home page to the blog page or About Us page. The second type of road allows you to go further, to another city, for example. It's like a highway. In HTML, we call them absolute links. These links connect your website to another site, taking you from your website to a YouTube page, for example. If you want to go somewhere, having an address is really helpful. You can choose the best road then to get there. In HTML, this address is the href attribute in a link tag. When using a link, the href tells you exactly where is the building or website you're looking for. We call the address a URL or Uniform Resource Locators. Let's see what types of addresses we have. In relative links, within the same website, it contains the path only. For example, if we have more than one HTML file for different pages, we can write an URL for the contact page like this, as a path only. We can skip the full website address, including HTTPS, www, and a domain name. Unfortunately, we won't use it in our project because we have a one-page website. It means we have only one HTML file, but we will use other handy techniques to navigate. Another type of address is in absolute links. These links connect your website to other websites. For example, when you visit a social media page from your website, they have the complete web address, like the example on a presentation slide. We must include the protocol, the domain name, and the path. Now it's time to add the first link to our project. We can, for example, put a link in the footer section. My idea is to write some text and include a link with a username. When we click it, we'll go to the main GitHub page. Sounds fun? Let's do it. First, place the cursor between the footer tags and press Enter to create a new line. Next, make a paragraph as we learned in the previous lesson. Add an opening and closing tag, then put the text "Made with Love" by Jane Doe inside. Now we will create a link, but not for the entire text. We want only Jane Doe to be a link. How can we do this? It's easy. Keep in mind that you can place one HTML element inside another. So, just surround Jane Doe with the opening and closing anchor tags like this. Perfect. We have a link, but we need to specify the address to the GitHub page. Do you know what to do next? Yes, we need to add an href attribute. Here's another question. Should we use a relative or absolute link? Is the GitHub page a building within our city or a place in another city? Should we use a local road or a highway? If you said we need to use a highway or an absolute link, you're absolutely right. The GitHub page is outside our website, in a completely different part of the internet. That's why we need to use an absolute link in this case. Let's add the href attribute to our link. Inside the opening anchor tag, type href, next equal sign, and then in quotes, please type https://github.com. Let's save our indexed HTML file and run it in a web browser. You will see the new text and Jane Doe with an underline. This is the default style of how links look in a browser. There is one more thing we need to discuss about links. As you can see, when you click on our link, the GitHub page opens in the same tab. But can we change this? I want to open it in a new tab. What can I do? There's another attribute for anchor tags called target. By default, it is set to open links in the same window or tab, but we have one more option to choose from. Let's take a look at the options available. The first option, also the default, is the keyword self. This opens links in the same tab. Remember to use an underscore before the name. And keep in mind that you don't need to write a self option, as all links are set to self by default. The next one is blank. When you set the target to blank, it tells the browser to open the link in a new tab or window, depending on the user's browser settings. This is a useful option when you want to keep your website open and let the user explore the linked page at the same time. So let's add the target attribute to our first link. All we need to do is to type target equals underscore blank in the opening anchor tag. While there is no strict rule about the order of attributes in HTML, it is generally a good practice to write the href attribute first when creating links. This is because the href attribute is the most important attribute for links, and placing it first makes the code easier to read and understand for other programmers. So even though it's not required, it's a recommended convention. Now that you know what links are for and how to create them, it's time to move on to the next part of the lesson and learn about images. We make our project more exciting and attractive by adding some pictures. Are you ready? Let's get started as usual with the tag. This time we'll be using a self-closing tag, so we don't need to create both an opening and closing tag. We will write a hybrid tag. To create an image tag, we'll use the img tag name, a simple and easy to remember shortcut for an image. To make it a self-closing tag, we'll add a slash at the end. And that's it. Although we've created an image element, it doesn't show any images yet. It's like a frame on a wall. It's just an empty placeholder until you put a picture inside. How can we do it? We need to add an src attribute which tells the browser where to find the image file. The src attribute is a shortcut for the word source. Just like in absolute links, you can provide a URL to an external website, for example, unsplash.com, which is an excellent resource for free images. You can also display an image located within the same website, just like in relative links. Let's add our first image to the project now. We will put it in the hero section. As a reminder, we have received many files from our client in the Materials folder. Please open the Images subfolder with me. You should see the Hero Photo Image file, the first image we use on our website. Let's get started. In the code editor, in the index.html file, find the section with Hero section text inside. Below that, we'll make a new line and create an image element. Remember, it is a self-closing tag with an img as a tag name. Please review that your element looks exactly like mine. The missing part here is an src attribute, so let's add it. As a path, we should write where this file is. The file we need is currently located outside of the Portfolio website folder, but we want all project files to be within that folder. So we need to copy this file and add it to our project folder. It's a good practice to make a subfolder for images only. Please right-click on the Portfolio website folder in the Explorer section of your code editor and choose New folder. Name the folder Images and press Enter. Now we have a subfolder where we can put all of the images. To do this, simply drag and drop the image from the Materials folder into the Images subfolder within VS Code. And that's it. The image file is now in the right place. To display our image, we just need to add the src attribute with the file location. Since our image file is inside the project folder, we can use a relative path instead of the full address. If the image were in the main folder, we could simply use its name. But in our case, the image is in the Images folder, so we should write the src attribute like this. Notice that VS Code displays hints for all files inside the image subfolder. This is a good sign that the path you've written is correct. We start with the subfolder's name, in this case images, and then add the file name including the extension. Remember always to include the file extensions. And that's all. We can now check the result in the browser. Our image is visible and the page looks more interesting now. Good job! I hope you're coding with me, not just watching. Remember, no one learns to code just by watching. Let's move on. The src attribute of the image element is fundamental. However, it's not the only attribute we'll be using. Let's introduce another one, which is alt. It's a shortcut from alternative text describing an image. Imagine it as a good friend describing a photo album to you over a phone call. You can see photos, but your friend describes each image to you so that you can imagine it in your mind. That's what an alt attribute does. It represents an image for people who can see it or for search engines. But how to write a good alt text? Keep it short and as descriptive as you can. It's like writing a good tweet. Avoid writing image of or picture of. It's redundant. And don't use alt text for images that are only for decoration. How to know if an image is decorative? If an image just makes the site looks nice and has no important info, it's decorative. It's time to add some alternative text to our first project image. As you can see, it contains a happy girl. We can assume that this is our client Jane Doe and she is a developer. So the alt text could be Jane Doe, a woman developer, standing on a dark background and smiling. Let's save the file. Perfect. It's time to check how it works. Please take a look at what happens when I change the image path and write the wrong file name. The browser will display the broken image icon. But we also have our alt text here. Thanks to this, visitors have some information about the missing image. Alright, it's time to combine what we learned in this video. Let's make an image as a clickable link. The perfect example of this technique can be a website logo. First, make sure you have an image to use as the logo. Luckily, we have one from our client in the materials. You'll find a Jane Doe logo SVG file in the Images folder. Please drag and drop it into the Code Editor's Images subfolder. Next, create a link using an anchor tag by typing an opening and closing tag. Add an href attribute to this element and set the path to index.html. This link will take us to the home page. To test it, add the text home inside the tags, save the file, and check it in the browser. If the page reloads after clicking the link, it's working. Now let's combine the image with the link. Remove the home text and create an image element in its place. This is a self-closing tag, so end it with a slash. For the src attribute, type the logo image path. Move the image element to the new line to make it more readable. Please save the file and view it in the browser. Great job! The logo is visible. Everything works well. As you can see, when you move a cursor over the logo image, the cursor changes to a hand icon. It means it's a link now. Let's check what will happen when we click it. It's a page reloading. It's a confirmation that the image is clickable now. Well done! It was a hard lesson about very important elements in HTML. As you can see, adding links and images to a website makes it look better and work better. Knowing how to add and change them helps you create more enjoyable and easy-to-use sites. We only have one more topic today, but I promise it will be very short. See you in the next video. Hello there! This short but useful video will be about HTML entities, the special characters in HTML documents. You'll find out what HTML entities are, why we use them, and how to insert them into our HTML code. Let's get started with a short explanation. Imagine that you need to add some special symbols to your website, but can't find them on your keyboard. You need to add, for example, some currency symbols like euro or pound, some math symbols like pi or square root, or even a copyright sign or heart symbol. How can we do that? Of course, you can browse it on the internet and copy-paste them, but in HTML, there's a better solution. I present to you HTML entities. They are special codes that represent characters or symbols. Think of HTML entities as a friendly translator that helps you write special symbols on your website. I think the best way to learn what it is will be to show you some examples. Sometimes you need to write some characters reserved in HTML. What do I mean? Take a look at this. I want to compare numbers in a paragraph and include a less than symbol. For example, 5 is less than 8. However, you may notice the less than symbol turns red in the code editor. Why does this happen? It is because we use the same symbol for creating HTML tags, which creates confusion in this situation. It's a reserved symbol in HTML. So, what's the solution? we can use an HTML entity to display the same symbol as plain text. Here's how. First, type an ampersand symbol, then the letters LT, and finally a semicolon. It may look weird, but trust me, it works. Please save the file and check it in the browser. Everything works fine. Let's move on to the next example. Imagine you run an e-commerce store and need to display the pound or euro symbols. However, these symbols aren't on your keyboard. No worries, we can create HTML entities for them. Remember, every HTML entity starts with an ampersand and ends with a semicolon, with a unique name in between. For the euro symbol, the name is euro. For the pound symbol, the name is pound. There are many HTML entities, but don't worry, you don't need to memorize them all. Instead, it's better to know where to find a list of them on the internet when needed. I've also included more information about entities and their official list in the materials below this video, so be sure to check that out. Now let's return to our currency example. Let's test if it works. Write the euro and pound entities in the paragraph. Save the file and open it in the browser. And voila! Currency symbols are displayed perfectly and working great. Alright, it's time to add a cool symbol to our project. We will include a cute heart symbol in the footer section. We already have some text here with a link to the GitHub page. Let's change the word love into a heart symbol. First, delete the word love. Next, type an ampersand, followed by the word hearts, and end with a semicolon. You'll now see the lovely heart icon. Great job! That's it for this chapter, and you've also almost completed day 4 of the challenge. You have one task left, and I promise it will be fun. So let's jump to the HTML exercise and practice HTML even more. Let's go! Congratulations! You've just landed your first coding job from an imaginary client who runs a restaurant called Delicious Delights. Your mission is to create a simple restaurant menu using the HTML concepts you've learned so far. This is an excellent opportunity to put your skills to the test and make your client happy. Your task is to create a static web page displaying Delicious Delights menu, including categories like appetizers, main courses, and desserts, with their descriptions and prices. I've prepared all steps for you to make completing this exercise easier. You'll find them in the materials section below the video. After you've finished working on your restaurant menu, I've prepared a pen with my solution for you to compare your work against. This will help you see different approaches and learn from my example. To compare, simply play solution video below this one. Before we finish this video, it's important to note that in CodePen, it's not necessary to include the doctype HTML, HTML, head, and body tags, as CodePen automatically handles these elements for you. However, for this exercise and learning, we'll include them in our example. If you see an error or warning message in CodePen after adding these elements, don't worry. It's just a reminder that CodePen usually takes care of those tags, but including them in this exercise will help you get familiar with the complete structure of an HTML document. Remember, you'll find all the materials you need to complete the mission in the materials section below this video. Hello again, Coder Woman! In this video, I'll walk through the solution for the Delicious Delights restaurant menu exercise step by step as if we were writing the code in CodePen. Remember, there's more than one way to complete this exercise, so your solution might be different from mine, and that's completely fine. In coding, in general, there is not only one good solution. The goal here is to learn from each other and grow your understanding of HTML. Let's dive in and start building our restaurant menu. First, log into your CodePen account and create a new pen. Set the title for this pen as HTML Restaurant Menu. Now, let's set up the basic structure of an HTML document. Type doctype HTML to specify the document type, followed by the opening and closing HTML tags. Inside the HTML tags, add the opening and closing head tags. Inside the head element, add a title tag and give our restaurant menu an appropriate title, such as Delicious Delights Menu. Next, we will add the opening and closing body tags right after the closing head tag. In the body element, let's use an h1 tag to add the restaurant's name, Delicious Delights. Right below the h1 tag, add an h2 tag for the menu title. Now we will create a new section for each menu category: appetizers, main courses, and desserts. Start by typing the opening and closing section tags, followed by an h3 tag for the category title, like appetizers. Inside the section for appetizers, use a P element to display the dishes, descriptions, and prices. Separate each dish with a line break using the BR element. Repeat this process for the main courses and desserts sections, updating the category titles and menu items accordingly. Please remember to save your pen using the Save button. And that's it for our Delicious Delights restaurant menu exercise solution. If you have any questions or need further clarification, remember we're here to support each other on this learning journey. Keep practicing and let's move on!